Okay. Greetings, members of the media. An acknowledgement to all the media houses that are here. My name is Cindy Swaskepers. I'm the national spokesperson of the African National Youth League. On my side, we've got the national organizer, Comrade Thabo Mofokeng, and next to him is Mpumalanga provincial chairperson, Comrade Betwell, and lastly is the president of the country, Comrade Phala Phala, the ANCYL Youth League president. President, I think you may take the podium. We may start.
Thank you very much, Spokes, for acknowledging me as the president of the country. I receive. Thank you very much, members of the media. The African National Congress Youth League has convened this media briefing at an important moment in life of our movement and our country. South Africa continues to face serious socio-economic and political challenges that require honest engagements, decisive leadership, and practical interventions. As the ANCYL Youth League, we remain unwavering in our commitment to defend the democratic mandate of the African National Congress and champion the aspiration of young people and intensifying the struggle for economic justice, accountability, and social transformation. The ANCYL Youth League emerges from a recent engagement of political sharper, organizationally and stronger, and more determined to intensify struggles in our communities, campuses, workplaces, villages, townships, and informal settlements across the country. The youth remains committed to building a militant, modern, and mass-based youth movement rooted in daily struggles of young people and capable of advancing the national democratic revolution. On Phala Phala, the ANCYL League has noted the recent development and continued public discourse surrounding the Phala Phala matter. The League rejects the continued political opportunism by individuals and organizations seeking to weaponize legal processes and state institutions in pursuit for factional agendas and factional agendas. South Africa is governed by constitutional democracy and the rule of law, not by political populism or coordinated campaigns and at destabilizing elected leadership. The President of the Republic has a very constitutional right to subject any report or finding or process to a judicial review where legal and procedural inconsistencies exist. The ANCYL League believes that there are grounds for review which must be properly adjudicated by a court of law rather than through a public pressure or media trials or political opportunism or populist grandstanding. The ANCYL League therefore rejects attempts to remove a democratically elected president through opportunism and media trials and unconstitutional means. As the first line of defense of both the African National Congress and the Constitution of the Republic of South Africa, the ANCYL League will continue to reject any attempt to use Phala Phala matter to undermine a democratic process and a constitutional order, the democratic mandate of the people through political opportunism and destabilization campaigns. The Youth League will continue to defend the democratic mandate of the movement and ensure that the constitutional processes and organizational discipline and democratic institutions are respected at all times. On Madlanga Commission, the ANCYL League welcomes the work of Madlanga Commission and commends the process made through so far exposing corruption, crime networks, state capture elements within the law enforcement agencies, and other forms of wrongdoing that continues to undermine public trust in the state institutions and governance. The revelation emerging from the Commission regarding criminality, abuse of power, corruption, and infiltration of sections of the police and other institutions are deeply concerning. It demonstrates the urgent need to strengthen accountability, ethical leadership, and the capacity of law enforcement agencies to combat organized crime and corruption. The Youth League believes that all efforts aimed at confronting corruption and strengthening the accountability and protection of public resources restore public confidence in the state institutions must be supported, provided that they are conducted within the bounds of the Constitution and the rule of law. on youth unemployment and June 16 celebrations, 50th celebration. The ANCYL League remains deeply concerned by escalating levels of youth unemployment in South Africa, which continues to rob millions of young people of their dignity and hope and economic freedom. Youth unemployment remains the greatest crisis confronting this generation. Millions of young people remain excluded from meaningful economic participation, while poverty, inequality, crime, substance abuse, hopelessness continues to rise in our communities across the country. Many graduates remain unemployed despite obtaining qualifications, while thousands of young people leave schools, colleges, and universities every year only to find no opportunities available for them. The ANCYL League, therefore, calls for an urgent and decisive intervention aimed at placing youth employment at the center of government and private sector priorities. Government and the private sector must adopt measurable youth employment targets, especially in sectors receiving public funds and support. The ANCYL League further calls for an urgent gazetting of youth employment sector quotas that will compel the private sector to play a meaningful role and a measurable role in confronting the crisis of youth unemployment. The Youth League believes that many companies continue to treat the crisis of youth unemployment with an indifference while prioritizing profit and limiting opportunities for young people. A gazetted youth unemployment sector code must therefore introduce enforceable obligations and measurable employment targets, accountability mechanism, required companies to create jobs, internships, and learnership. The workplace training and graduate opportunities for young South Africans. South Africa must accelerate industrialization, localization, and public procurement policies that prioritize local manufacturing, township economies, and youth-owned businesses. Young people cannot continue to be spectators in their own economy of their own country. Despite the unemployment crisis, many companies continue to prioritize profit while failing to create meaningful employment and opportunities for young people. The Youth League believes that towards youth unemployment, the Youth League believes that it can resolve youth unemployment through export quotas. We further call for expanded support for youth entrepreneurship through increased access to finance and market mentorship, procurement opportunities, and business development support, particularly through institutions such as the National Youth Development Agency. The NYDA must continue to strengthen and properly resource in order to support youth-owned enterprises, skill development programs, and business funding and graduate placement initiatives. Young people need decent jobs, opportunities, workplace exposure, and support for entrepreneurship. The future of stability and growth of South Africa economy depends on inclusion of young people and productive economic activities. As part of the upcoming June 16 celebration program to be held in Gauteng, where the country will mark 50 years since the historic 1976 student uprising, the ANCYL League will ensure that the celebration becomes more of a symbol, more than just a symbolic event. Young people attending the program will encourage to submit their CVs as part of the broader youth job campaign aimed at connecting youth unemployment. The president of the country will not be allowed to address before he receives all the CVs from all the unemployed youth. On the illegal migration, the ANCYL League also wishes to raise concern regarding the increased level of illegal migration and its impact on employment opportunities, labor conditions, and already strained public resources. While South Africa remains committed to a progressive African unity, and illegal migration cannot be allowed to worsen unemployment and economic exclusion of young South Africans. The exploitation of undocumented foreign nationals as a cheap labor by some employers undermines the labor standards and worsens the unemployment of young people in South Africa. The ANCYL League therefore calls for Minister of Employment and Labor to embark on a workplace walkabout throughout Youth Month, in particular targeting restaurants, construction sites, retail establishments, factories, and other sectors where labor and migration laws are frequently undermined. Employees found exploiting undocumented foreigners, nationals, or violation of labor laws must face decisive consequences. Government must strengthen border management, enforce migration laws, and protect the dignity of the economic rights of South African citizens. The Youth League further calls for a coordinated entrepreneurship program aimed at equipping young South Africans with the skills and support and resources necessary to participate in meaningful township and informal economies, including the establishment, management of spaza shops and other small businesses, which must be set aside for young South Africans. Young people must not remain excluded from sectors of the economy operating within their own communities. Government institutions, development agencies, and the private sector must work together to empower young South Africans through training, access to funding, mentorship, and business support initiatives. On service delivery and local government elections, the ANCYL remain concerned about the rise of crime, gangsterism, and drug abuse in a broader social decades affecting communities across the country. Young people continue to suffer the consequence of unemployment, hopelessness, and collapse of social conditions. In advancing accountability and improving governance, the ANCYL will launch a program titled Service Delivery Wednesday in July, aimed at confronting poor governance, weak leadership, and failure of municipalities to govern institutions. Through this program, the ANCYL structures across the country will conduct oversight visits and community engagements to hold councillors, municipal managers, mayors, public representatives accountable for failures of service delivery. The regional structures of the ANCYL will be expected to submit regular reports to provincial structures detailing the performance of municipalities, including identifying mayors and councillors and municipal leadership that are working effortlessly. Those failing communities through poor service delivery, incompetency, and lack of accountability. Communities continue to suffer from collapsed infrastructure, water shortages, electricity challenges, uncollected waste, poor service delivery, while some public representatives remain disconnected with the lived realities of our people. The ANCYL will not tolerate laziness, arrogance, or incompetency from those entrusted with serving communities. Branches of the movement must return to becoming the center of activism and problem solving in our communities, rather than domain structures that only emerge during conferences or elections. As we approach the upcoming local government elections, the ANCYL calls on young people to prepare themselves to an active participant government of leadership. Young people must organize themselves and build capacity to contest leadership positions and become agents of progressive change within the communities and public institutions. The ANCYL advocates for the emergence of young and capable, ethical, community-based leaders to contest and lead municipalities with integrity, discipline, and committed to service delivery. In conclusion, the ANCYL remains resolute in defense of the democratic mandate of the African National Congress and the constitutional order of the Republic of South Africa. We reject any attempt to use Phala Phala matter as a tool to politic and destabilization and opportunism aimed at undermining elected leadership through irrational meaning. At the same time, the Youth League intensified the struggle against youth unemployment, poor service delivery, economic exclusion, and social decay affecting millions of young people across the country. We call our government, the private sector, and all progressive forces to act decisively in confronting challenges facing the youth of South Africa. The ANCYL remains committed to organize, mobilize, and leading in defense of youth and the democratic future of the country. Thank you very much.
Thank you, President. We may start and take the first round of hands. You'll be the first, the second. There's just 2 hands. Yes, we may start.
Good morning, colleagues and leadership in front. Mr. President of the Youth League, Mr. Koren Marachi, on the issue of Phala Phala, yeah, the president has a right to appeal and stuff like that. But if you recall very well, for instance, when the ANC enacted the step-aside rule, it was based on the moral responsibility of those that are in leadership position. They cannot be judged on just the basic thing that they have a right to go to court, they have a right to do this, because you would recall there were complaints about step-aside that it prejudges people against the principle of natural justice, that anyone is innocent until proven guilty by a court of law. I think that principle should be applied in this regard as well. What do you guys say about that moral responsibility that rests on someone who occupies the office of the president vis-a-vis what you are saying? And also, what do you think must happen in terms of the reputational damage that is going to be visited on the ANC once again by being persistent that a person with a dark cloud on their head must continue to lead the organization and the country, as it happened with Nkandla, with the former President Zuma? It has happened with Phala Phala with the previous elections, and we are heading for other elections with a person with a dark cloud like that over their head, which inevitably means a loss of support for the ANC. Number two, and lastly, from my side, Mr. Maraj, you are calling and calling and calling, and you've been calling. We call for this, we call for this. For instance, let me make an example. You had said when you assumed office in your first term that you are going to hold ministers, for instance, accountable. You are complaining now about the worsening youth unemployment, but there are complaints, for instance, about, according to the public, how useless the Minister of Small Business is. What is the Minister of Trade and Industry doing for young people? And you guys have, as far as I'm concerned, you haven't called for their heads like you promised when you assumed office, that you will hold these ministers accountable, and that if they don't do anything for young people, they will face the wrath of the Youth League, in that you will call for their removal. In fact, now you are making another threat that the president will not address until they receive the CVs. What must he do with the CVs? Because really, these old people, let's be honest, they are not doing anything for young people. And you guys, as the voice of young people, so far, there's nothing to show for what you are in office for. Thank you very much.
Good morning. My name is Lunga, and I'm from the Mail and Guardian. President, mine is on the Phala Phala issue, to say the head of state has managed to put Senzo Mchunu on special leave of some sort, so that he can focus on his own matters relating to this PKTT issue. Would it have not been advisable, or maybe showed leadership, for him to do the same, so that he can focus on his issues? Because it looks as if it's double standard. Some can be sent home to sit at home and focus on their issues, but he, in this instance, is still continuing in that position. And secondly, as the Youth League, is there a sort of desperation in the ANC that without CR, there's no one else that can lead this party? Is there a person, is there a candidate here in the ANC that you'd say, if you'd had to go and sit at home, that you'd prefer that takes over government? Thank you.
Thank you. Those were the two questions, President.
Can take more.
Oh, okay.
Oh, yeah.
Good morning. I think the Phala Phala thing, I think my colleagues have covered it. But are you able to offer us your comments on what is currently happening with the NSFAS, since it affects young people, as well as the conversation around the basic income grant? Yes, we understand it's 370, right? Yeah. It's costing the country a lot of money, but I mean, the money comes back into the economy one way or the other. What would you say, the government should be looking towards when it comes to the issue of either basic income grant, or I think some people had suggested like a levy for people who are seeking jobs. How much should it be? Are you in support of it? How does the government raise that money? Where do they plug the gap from? And is this where the Minister of Small Business also comes in? Because small business, but many young people are really under siege. And I don't know, has she reported to you guys as the Youth League? And you, as your deployee, I mean, what she has done to, really bring out young people out of this depressing situation. Thank you. I think.
Yes.
Sorry. Okay. Thank you very much, spokesperson. think let's first agree that the judgment have not found the president guilty of any wrongdoing. Because there is this media narrative that has been built even by other political parties, where through that desperate means they are obsessed about sending a wrong message that the president was found guilty on the Phala Phala issue. The judgment says that the parliament has not followed a proper process on the issue of processing the report. The president says he is going to put the report on review. Now, there is no way the president is found guilty of any wrongdoing. Now, I think it's irresponsible to compare the old man from Nkandla, who used state resources through a corrupt means to build a home for himself, overpriced to a point whereby we had to explain a swimming pool and call it a fire pool. Now, it's not the same matter. Now, there's no way that political parties that are led by converted people who are criminally arrested. You go to MK party, is led by a banditi called Zuma. You go to the EFF, is led by a new banditi now called Judas. They tell you that a president who is not a banditi is a banditi. Now, South Africans are not bandits. Now, we're not going to be told about banditis or not. If people want to govern, they must contest elections and win. South Africa is a democratic country. President Ramaphosa played an important role in drafting this constitution 30 years ago. And that they must respect the constitution of the country, because that is the most important thing. That's why we will not behave like others and undermine the judiciary of the country. The judiciary of the country must be respected and be protected, because it's a very important sphere of government that protects the very democracy that we celebrate today. Now, even if sometimes they're not happy, there are processes in place that we put to contest judgments or views that you feel that are affecting you. You don't immediately declare someone guilty when there is no court of law that will find them guilty of anything. Now, I think on that one, we must be clarified that morally, what the president of the country is doing is right. By putting a process that is not happy with on review, he is applying his constitutional right. Because there is this thinking that if you become a president of the country, you no longer have a right in South Africa. Now, the president of the country is not protected by the same constitution that protects all citizens of the country. Now, he must do that, and is the same person who is protected by the same constitution that he has paid to draft.
Yes, we have what you call
that is one.
Live streaming.
On the issue of holding ministers accountable, we've been doing that. We've been calling on ministers here. We've made pronouncements on other issues. We've even from Lekgotla now, we invited the Minister of Small Businesses to come and present. We said at Lekgotla that we are not impressed on how the cabinet operates. We said to the president that the Minister of Small Businesses blames the Minister of DTIC, the Minister of DTIC blames the Minister of Finance. It's just a blaming game in that cabinet. I've said it here before that the problem of President Ramaphosa is that he's a president of a weak cabinet. Now, if you're a president of a weak cabinet, even if you have a vision, that vision will not be implemented, because the people who must run and implement that vision are busy blaming each other like they're not working one government. You know, I don't know how painful it is, but you see the Minister of Sports. He gets there, he's a minister of the opposition. But you can see every day is actively resolving problems. Now, I don't know why others are failing to do that, but the president must urgently act on them. We've called upon the president to do that. On the issue of unemployment grants, we've long announced that. We've even went further to say that the youth that are graduates who are unemployed must be given not less than 1.5 to go and seek their jobs until they are placed. Where is the money going to come from? You must tax the rich and help the poor. Because there are big companies here who are maximizing profit, exploiting our people every day. We even went further to tell the ANC that there is no way a country with serious critical minerals like South Africa can afford. There's no way we can afford to place all South Africans in the economic activities of their own country. It requires decisive leadership and political will to do that. If we introduce export quotas and industrialize the economy, we won't have the problems that we have today. Now, I know the president has also announced on that matter. We are monitoring it to make sure it gets implemented. The sooner we implement that, the better, because we can explain why there's such a high level of unemployment when there's so much critical minerals in the country. When we know that there are jobs in the private sector where a job that's supposed to be done by 5 people is done by 1 person because that company wants to maximize profit. On NEFSAS, we're starting to be excited on NEFSAS that is getting stabilized. But we realized that the board members resigned. SASCO was clear also in opposing how the board was appointed. And we supported SASCO on that issue that the board was appointed excluding student representation. There's always been a black cloud, a very bad cloud around NEFSAS, which is an important institution to resolve problems of youth that can afford to access higher education. A young administrator or acting CEO from NYDA was appointed. We don't understand why now there's administration. I think we'll urgently call the minister here to come and brief us, because we were thinking that because we're celebrating that NEFSA is improving. We're celebrating that at least students are starting to get payments on time. But now all of a sudden, administration, we have a view that it seriously disrupts the work that has been done at NEFSAS. Now, we have not called the minister yet into account. We'll call the minister in as a PYA to come and fully explain to us what is the problems with NEFSAS and how to assist that. We've also made a call that how does an institution like NEFSAS that's supposed to distribute resources to students, it employs companies to do that job when they are commanded to do that job. Now, those are part of the issues that we wanted to resolve on urgent basis. I think on other issues I've covered. Is the issue I've not covered? Yes.
I think both my issues, President.
Which one?
You have not answered on why the President could be able to say we must sit at home and focus on these issues, but he can't do the same. And the second one was the fact that do you think there's any capable leader of the ANC right now that can take over from him?
Let's start on leadership. There is no drought of leadership in the ANC. The ANC is one organization that prepares leaders every day. We've got the Youth League, we've got COSAS, we've got SASCO. There's always leadership in the ANC. Now, President Ramaphosa knows that anyone can replace him in the ANC and still be a good leader because it's an institution that we've built on morals and principles and constitutionality. Now, the ANC is not we don't have that problem in the ANC that if President Ramaphosa leaves, there will be no one to replace him. Anyone can replace Ramaphosa any day. Branches of the ANC can decide who must replace Ramaphosa. That's why we have a top 6, top 7. We have close to 80 additional members. We've got provincial leadership, we've got regional leadership. Now, there's no drought of leadership. But we're saying that there is no backdoor program that is going to be used to remove the president of the ANC on issues that he has taken on review. There is no judgment that says the president of the ANC is guilty of what happened in Phala Phala. Now, that's what we're saying. Now, the succession debates in the ANC have not been open. When the time comes and such debates are open, you'll see there will be many people who are available to contest to be president of the African National Congress. Now, on that one, it's not a very difficult one to deal with. On the census issue, you know what happened in South Africa. General Mkonazi did a press briefing, implicated generals, implicated everyone else, including the minister. And Senzo himself said he's going to volunteer and move aside until the matter is clarified. That's why today we have what we call Maganga Commission. That Maganga Commission is exposing everything. You know, in the beginning, I don't agree on how the press briefing was done by General Mkonas. But now I understand why it was very important. If General Mkonas did not do that press briefing on that day, this country was going to be run by criminal networks and will not be aware. We'll wake up one day, this country is run by criminals and thugs who have taken over our streets. The Maganga Commission is doing very well. The president must extend the term of Maganga Commission. We want them to go as far as Cape Town. We believe that Cape Town, there's more roads than anywhere else. Because there in Cape Town, gangsters have taken over, working together with the DA. Now, this Maganga must not only end here in Johannesburg, it must go in all important areas until we clean out the criminality in this country. Now, we're very happy with the Maganga Commission. You can see, Maganga says something today, on Monday, vans arrive, arrest people. Maganga does things today, on Monday, people are busy, vans of the country are busy. We're saying the president must put more budget on police, get more vans, get more courts operating. We want to see our courts busy. We want to see police arresting every day until we clean out criminality, because we are not going to surrender this young democracy of ours to criminals. And if there are politicians or administrators who are working with criminals, they must also be arrested. Yeah? You can listen to them when they speak. Some of them, it's like they've not been to school. They can't even explain basic things because they know they were doing wrong things. Now we're saying that the president must give more budget to Maganga and must give more budget to the police, who must empower institutions of the state to do their job in assisting to clean up this country.
Those were the questions, President. I think you have covered all of them. I'm seeing there's a late hand there as well. We can always take it, right, President? There's that hand. Okay.
Thank you so much, Nhlanhla Kgatlana with the SABC. Politically, as the ANC Youth League, have you guys done, an analysis in terms of the image of the ANC? I mean, this is not the first time the leader of the party has made rounds in terms of, allegations of wrongdoing. Are you worried as the ANC Youth League? Thank you so much.
Thank you so much. Moloko Moloto is my name. And first, let me apologize for being late. We sincerely apologize. Things happened on the way. But I also apologize in case my questions have been asked by my colleagues before. I just want to start with the president saying that he's taking this matter on judicial review. In your view, because we don't know when the courts are going to ultimately pronounce and at which level, whether this is a matter that will end at the High Court or it will go all the way to the Apex Court. What must happen in your view? While on the one hand there's a review, should the parliamentary processes end? Because I'm just trying to think what happens if the parliamentary inquiry and ultimately voting on impeachment, the vote is that the president has done something wrong, he must be voted out, and he is impeached, and the court later find that that report was flawed. Secondly, I just want to understand, what do you make of the president taking so many years to take this matter on judicial review? I mean, the Constitutional Court previously clarified this, that the president of South Africa is a constitutional being. He is the embodiment of the Constitution, and a finding was made by a panel to say he may have seriously violated the Constitution, which is one of the grounds for impeachment, and that he may have seriously violated provisions of the Prevention and Combating of Criminal Activities Act, PRECA. He took that long, despite the fact that the report was standing. What must we make out of the delay? Is this the president who really was concerned about the damage that was being done by findings of that report? And lastly, at what point do you as the Youth League say this is where we think the president was wrong, or your support for him is unlimited?
Thanks for a second bite at the chair, but Mr. Maraj, you are taking questions anyway. Let me rephrase my question, because you also didn't answer the question of Lunga. Lunga's question is simple. What is applied to Minister Mkhunu, why is it not applied to the president? But anyway, I also asked, for instance, about you. I say, when you are coming, you are like a house on fire, calling for people's head. Okay, for instance, you say yourself, the cabinet is weak. Let me ask a direct question. According to you, which ministers are such a failure that you would say President Cyril Ramaphosa must fire them today, not tomorrow? It's a direct question. Is Minister Stella Ndabeni of Small Business one of those ministers? Because I think the general feeling is that she is an absolute disaster. It's out there. It's not me. Everyone knows about it. And as back to the other question, the reputational damage, leave the legalities and everything else that you've said about the Phala Phala. I asked, what about the reputational damage it has on the ANC, specifically on its election campaign? We know in about 5 months' time we have local government elections, and certainly it goes without saying that there will be hell to pay for the ANC for continuing to defend the Phala Phala scandal. What do you say about that? Thank you.
Are you going to try for the third time, President?
Thank you very much, Shego. I don't know which question did I dodge, but I think I've answered. Maybe I must simplify it, answer it slowly. I said that the president of the country, the judgment by the Constitutional Court, did not say that he's guilty of anything. It spoke on the process of parliament. Now, it is the media that has put him on trial. It is political parties that have put him on, opposition political parties that put him on trial. The president, through the Constitution, he resolved to put the review, he resolved to put the report on judicial review. Now, that is not a person that is on trial. It's a person that is practicing his constitutional right to do that. And that must be protected for. As much as we want him to be held accountable by the same constitution and the laws of the country, we must also expect him to practice and be protected by the same constitution. Now, I think on that one is clear. On the issue of Comrade Senzo, there were serious allegations by a general. You must understand that thing. By a general that said that he stopped a task team that was dealing with cases that were focused on political killings. Or in December. And the country made a call, everyone else, including stakeholders, that because the general says that the reason they're not doing their work is because of the minister, the president must put him on special leave so that he does not tamper with the investigation on that matter. And that's what happened on the issue of Comrade Senzo. That's why we have a Maganga commission today and the acting minister of police. Now, it's not the same issue. You are comparing bananas and apples. The image of the ANC is damaged. The image of the ANC is damaged because for years, before we even put our step-aside rule and start our renewal program of the ANC, we have been harboring a lot of wrong behavior. The image of the ANC, I think President Ramaphosa took over the ANC at a very difficult time. By the time he became president, he did not even enjoy anything. He did not even enjoy being president. He arrived as president, it was COVID-19. When COVID-19 is new problems, he had to go and rebuild state-owned entities that were collapsing. And the media is not writing about it that ESCOM was collapsing, is now going up. SAA is going up. All the state institutions, the reason why beneficiaries of state capture are fighting Ramaphosa every day, it is because he's cleaning out corruption in state-owned entities. Now, the poor president did not even have enough time to prove how far he can go. But with the little time that he got, was able to do those achievements. We are respected internationally because of a stance that we take on important platforms against injustice and imperialism. It's Ramaphosa. Now, it is only here in South Africa we don't embrace what we have. But everywhere else, they know the kind of a leader that we produced here. Our defense for Ramaphosa is, no. We are not going to defend any individuals if they are found guilty or wrong. If Ramaphosa is charged of Phala Phala and arrested, we are going to be the first people as the youth league to call for him to step down. But we're not going to call for a president to step down who is not charged of any wrongdoing. We're not a hands-off Ramaphosa Youth League. We're a Youth League of the African National Congress, the first line of defense of the African National Congress. Anyone found guilty of wrongdoing, we are the first ones to call them out. And just to add on, Ramaphosa is not even accused of stealing state resources. He's not even accused of stealing state resources. That's why I always say that you can't compare the matter of President Ramaphosa like other matters of the past that have got the ANC image being damaged. Now, on that one, I think we're very clear as the Youth League. We defend the African National Congress. Ramaphosa is the current president of the ANC, and we believe that he is trialed by the media, he is trialed by opportunists, he is trialed by beneficiaries of state capture and corruption who don't want him to act on them. And now that Maganga is arresting every day, I'm sure he's going to be fought every day because they'll think that Ramaphosa is a policeman who must release them if they want to be arrested. People are arrested every day because Ramaphosa is allowed state institutions to do their job without interference. Thank you.
I will on it. Sorry, the question on Parliament review and Parliament.
Look, we have a strong view as the Youth League that the process of Parliament must stop until the review is finalized. Because what is on review is a report that must be discussed in that process. Now, as the Youth League was saying that Parliament must not rush, they must wait for the president to exhaust all those processes. If the courts are saying that he must still go, the report is correct, then the president must enter that process. But for now, they must wait for the process of the review to be finalized with the president. We can't have two processes that are speaking to the same process, because which report are you going to use there if the report is on review? Now, I say that process must stop, then we allow the president to conclude the process that they started. Then when it's done, then that process, when it's done, it will be determined, because you will find that there's not even a report. What if the courts and everyone else says that the president is right? Then there will be nothing to discuss there in Parliament. People might have to wait for 2029 elections to get majority. Some of their political parties are going down. They might not even have one seat by the time we get to 2029. Now, the president of the country has put the report on review. His democratic right must be respected.
The minister, which ones do you think we should divide?
No, I'm not a president of the country. I don't fire ministers. We're still doing the assessment. When we're done, we'll be able to announce that certain ministers must go, others must remain. Now, for now, we're started the process of engaging all of those processes. I don't know what Stella Ndabeni has done to you guys, but I can see that you want to hear Stella call. But I don't know what he has done. I'll brief him that he must have a session with the media to explain. But the last time we held Comrade Stella accountable, he told us his biggest problem is that he's given a big department with no budget. His department must be able to resolve big issues of small business, because small businesses is the center of any economy of the world. Now, you can't give small business a small budget and expect it to perform miracles of a big. Now, the Minister of Finance must give small businesses more money. I can tell you now, if you put any minister in small businesses and don't give them a budget, they will all not perform in that ministry. Thanks.
That was the final set of hands. Thank you for attending. Thank you, President, and the leadership here on the table. This concludes the session. Thank you. Do you want one-on-ones?